Before we start, like and subscribe. The snakes around it scattered in a panic, fleeing quickly, as if terrified of being devoured by something inside. Many monstrous poisonous snakes were crawling across the pit as a green, poisonous gas spread wildly. Their eyes were hungry for something, and they began to move toward the lake filled with poisonous mist. Lin was shocked to see this, wondering why the snakes were gathering near the poison pool. He guessed that perhaps there was some kind of treasure inside that was so tempting it drew them near. At that moment, inside the poisonous green pool, a vortex of liquid began to form, then blasted out of the pool, filled with gas and toxic liquid. It was a monster that spread poison everywhere, indifferent to its surroundings, whether friend or foe. These poisonous, laser-like bursts turned into toxic crystals. Because of these poisonous crystals, the monsters seemed to be fighting. The snakes hissed as they tried to get the toxic crystals for themselves. But it wasn't possible since they were lethal at this proximity. Suddenly, one of the poisonous snakes attacked another and ripped it apart, trying to increase its share by taking out other enemies. But deep in the mist, the skeleton warrior was still collecting more and more of the poisonous crystals, unnoticed by any of the monsters or poisonous beings at the time. However, as the skeleton warrior turned after collecting the stones, he sensed something truly monstrous and powerful coming toward him. As the scene shifted, we saw Lin flying in the sky, his skeletal shield still protecting him. He realized a giant monster was moving above him, sending chills down his spine. Huge cat-like eyes glared at Lin, immediately noticing his human flesh. The giant snake hissed, revealing its sharp fangs, which were powerful enough to crush even heavy, indestructible rocks. This gigantic poisonous creature began to roar and absorb all the poisonous crystals the dead skeleton warrior had collected. The skeleton warrior himself was also pulled in by the immense force, along with the crystals. As the snake monster devoured all those crystals, it also crushed the dead skeleton warrior between its jaws, breaking it in half with little effort. Lin watched all this happening and understood that the massive snake was attacking the skeleton warriors randomly in an incredibly destructive manner. Lin was sure that his life link and full contact method would be a complete failure against this absolute power, as the snake could crush him and his army of undead without leaving a trace of any of them alive for even a moment. Meanwhile, the giant snake monster was ruthlessly attacking the other skeleton warriors, forming giant tornadoes of poisonous green liquid that caused mass destruction. But in the middle of the portal, another vortex appeared. Lin quickly realized it didn't originate from the snake, but from the lake itself. Lin wondered what was happening, and when he looked closely, he noticed something hovering inside the poisonous laser. A system notification informed him that the snake was the poison god, and what was hovering there was the poison god's essence. It was an essence that could be used by any poison-related profession, greatly increasing the likelihood of a career advancement during the third transfer. It could also be used to enhance poison-type skills. The poisonous essence was a blood-like liquid flowing from the poison itself. Lin realized this essence was divine. He remembered the master's teachings that anything linked to a god is extremely valuable and should never be wasted. Lin also knew that the poison god was watching everything closely, and that this might be a trap. But nevertheless, he realized he must acquire the toxic poison god's essence somehow, and decided he would give it his all. Lin activated flight mode again, along with the skeletal shield, and tried to move toward the portal. But before he could, another world boss appeared in front of him, a snake. It was a level 85 monster with 1.5 million strength, 1.7 million constitution, 1 million agility, and 1.7 million spirit. Its skills included Deathbite and Merciless Devour with a terrifying poison. It also had a 50% damage reduction, property for any physical or elemental damage. The poisonous snake gave Lin a fierce death glare and tried to absorb him and his essence. But Lin knew he wouldn't give in. He told the poisonous snake to dream on, and immediately activated skeletal bone prison, wrapping the snake's entire body. The snake screamed in pain and agony as it tried to break free, but in a matter of moments, it shattered the prison into countless pieces. No matter how much power Lin used, it was still a boss-level monster. But Lin still had a plan. Even if the skeletal prison couldn't last long, it bought him enough time. Now, Lin was ready to use his trump card, Soul Flame. Soul Flame made the poisonous snake scream in pain, as it felt something dangerous invading its mind. A mental torment shook it to its core. After using Soul Flame, Lin retreated behind his massive army of skeleton mages and berserkers as the mage class began to cast numerous elemental spells. Lin then commanded all the skeleton mages to target the snake's eyes to obstruct its line of sight. The battlefield was soon bombarded with countless magical spells that exploded point blank against the giant snake's body. The attack blinded the monster, and Lin smiled. Knowing the snake's game was over, Lin declared victory, acquiring the poison god's essence and safely storing it in his inventory. But before he could celebrate, two glowing yellow eyes appeared behind him, shining with a death aura. The snake had outsmarted him. It launched a surprise attack, trying to absorb both Lin and the poison god's essence together. Lin was shocked, turning to face this cunning move. But this time, the snake succeeded, swallowing both of them. It and its essence, convinced it had won. However, a strange sensation began in its mouth, followed by a violent throbbing. Suddenly, an explosion blasted its jaw apart. Inside, Lin had summoned a swarm of skeleton warriors and mages, commanding them to strike in unison. Their combined attack ripped the snake open, allowing Lin to escape unharmed. He then knew that nothing in the lower levels of the Eternal Trial battlefield could contain him. Without hesitation, Lin activated an ancient rune and unleashed the powerful soldier skill, granting all his skeleton warriors a 200% boost. Lin knew how this turned into a devastating combination. He directed Soul Flame into the skeleton warriors. Since they were already undead, they couldn't feel pain or agony. But if the snake tried to swallow them again, it would suffer greatly. Lin almost wanted the creature to try. And with that, my friend, today's chapter is finished.